I am here today with a very distinguished guest today. This is a special occasion because it is not every day that we have a Halloween Wars All-Star champion with us. I'm excited to welcome Sarah Blostein, aka Bloodstain. Welcome to Halloween Daily. Thank you so much for hanging out and talking to us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
It's always Halloween here, and I feel like you represent that lifestyle in a lot of ways, just in your career, and not even just your pumpkin career that we're going to talk about, but we're also going to talk about your film career as well. And you've been a part of a lot of cool horror movies that our audience are certainly familiar with. And so, in many ways, I feel like you kind of represent that every day is Halloween lifestyle that we love.
Absolutely. This is how my living room looks 365. There's a few Santa hats and spells here and there.
I love it. I love it. Again, I could tell, and I knew just from following you on Instagram and watching you on the show and stuff that yeah, you're definitely one of us. I don't think that's going to be a surprise to anybody that is familiar with your work. But before we get into your career and all these cool projects you've been a part of, we always kind of like to start our origin story with a little flashback into Halloween's past whenever possible.
For sure.
So if you could tell us what is your earliest memory or memories of celebrating Halloween? I guess first of all, do you celebrate? I don't think I gotta ask that. I think we already know the answer. But what is your earliest memory of Halloween?
Well, I definitely celebrate it. I say to just about anybody who lives in Halloween is the closest to a religion as I get. Um, if people ask me if I cosplay, I'm like, excuse me, no, I Halloween. Thank you very much.
That's right.
Keep
Absolutely.
something sacred. The earliest memory of Halloween is I was probably like 3 or 4, and I was a leopard. And I remember, like, when you're so young, that your mom's carrying you around to trick or treat with their arms. And someone said, like, it's Friday. And I just remember just indignation. I was like, I'm a leopard. Do I know? But I love everything about it. I especially love being on the, spookier side of things, obviously. I think there was a year I went as a pink fairy.
Mhm.
That was a phase that didn't last very long, but even as a fairy, I was scaring people away with my wand and, chasing after the guys and moving in the haunted houses and everything. So, I've always enjoyed the scare.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm the same way. We have those just warm memories of growing up, nostalgic memories of Halloween's past. And we always like to ask also, what is your favorite Halloween costume that you've ever worn? And this could be from days past or a more recent one, and your favorite Halloween treat.
I've had so many good costumes. Just that I enjoyed being or playing, I think probably my best was I did a brother sister costume with my brother of the brother and sister from Hellboy 2, Nuada and Nuala. And that was fun. It was like full wigs, like head to toe, makeup, no eyebrows, everything. And that was very cool. That was a lot of fun. And cool thing about it, my uncle was working with Guillermo del Toro at the time, and I had a photo shoot done and got him to sign my picture. Just apparently he was very impressed.
Wow,
He was like, "Oh my god!"
that is awesome. That is very
Oh, and
cool.
my favorite Halloween treat. Um, so I had been cursed with becoming allergic to certain microbes, and just horrible. Like, it's so many things to eat. But I would have to go with the crispy crunch. Um, there's something about Halloween that is like, frosty.
Awesome.
Very hungry when you go through your candy pile, you're like, did I get one? Did I get one? Along to those lines again.
Now, I got to ask, with the Halloween holiday, were you always into the pumpkin carving part of it? I know pumpkins haven't become your main focus until kind of recently, but at that young age, was that part of it your attraction to it even at that part? Do you remember?
I think for, until I was maybe 10, I guess, like in grade one, two, three, it was all about the costumes and the candy and the actual trick-or-treating and the decorations and that kind of thing. And that was obviously carried on. It's right. But when I was maybe grade two or three, my dad got out some wood carving tools and started, like, everyone does it now and you see it everywhere, but in the 80s, no one had really done the thing where you like match a pumpkin before. You just like take the skin off and let it glow through. And that
Yeah.
kind of blew my mind. I was like, wait, doesn't this have to be triangles? Holy moly. So and he would like my dad's a self-taught artist and he would like get out his workbooks and look at like, Haida masks or, Japanese forms, stuff like that. And yeah, that just kind of opened up this whole new world to me that, oh my God, it can be something else.
Yeah, like you said, it can be more than just the typical, the triangle, the classic,
Yeah.
and the complete punch throughs and everything,
Yeah.
um, and I love that you were kind of inspired even at that age, by your dad, and that he would put the extra effort into it. Again, one of us there, putting
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
a time like you said where it wasn't certainly as common as maybe it is today, and when you're down the road working on horror films and making a career of really creating a lot of the blood that we see on screen and the costumes. We've talked to a lot of people that they don't even realize it at the time, but subconsciously even sometimes it's kind of traced back to Halloween and kind of an attraction to that. Do you see a correlation there that your attraction to the costuming and all at that time would lead into what you would later on make a career out of?
Absolutely. I am 100% sure that I went into costumes because of Halloween. Um, I was obsessed with monsters as a kid, like to the point that I refused to eat my breakfast until my dad drew like a monster that I could color in on this little easel that I had. So monsters and costumes and all of this sort of like fantasy has always driven me towards film. And the pumpkin is just one more part of it that's like the sculpting and the
Hmm.
getting into the effects side of it. But yeah, were it not for Halloween, who knows what I'd be doing?
And again, that's that everyday is Halloween lifestyle, taking what you love from what for some people is a 1 day a year event and really making it your life and making a career out of it and taking the artistry, like you said, from something that is just a kind of a throwaway tradition for some people and really recognizing that yeah, there is artistry in that and you can carry that into other places. um so I guess that's when you kind of realized you wanted to go into this work. How did you kind of land into it, and what was your first kind of big I don't want to say studio, but kind of when you realized, okay, I am on this set, I am on, this is a big deal, this is going to be my life now, this is where I'm meant to be. What project was that?
That's a good question. I I did a lot of different arts over my school career and that kind of thing.
Hmm.
Interestingly enough, I didn't. I mean, it's really hard to find paying for my artist. So it was most of my jobs in my 20s, like they weren't creative. It was like I cleaned prints or like I did screen printing or like cleaned screen printing screens or just really odd jobs that allowed me to do art in between. But it wasn't until I really sort of gave myself a kick in the ass when I turned 30, and I was like, "You wanted to do film forever. Go and do film. Figure out how to do that." So I got into the union as a permit. Um, it started slowly. I did set calls for about 3 years, which is mostly dressing background and some dressing the main cast. But I had showed my portfolio of mostly Halloween costumes to people that I was working with, and they said, "Why aren't you in Down?" And I was like, "It's Down." And I was lucky enough on season 5 of The Strain
Oh yeah.
to be kind of allowed to try breakdown, and that was when I was like, "Yep, this is what I want to do." It was all of my art training and all of my creativity and monster loving everything and costumes together. Um, and blood too. That was my first intro to like, ooh, I can, you know, some and all this kind of stuff. So that was when I was like, this is exactly what.
So it was the strain, and that was really when you were kind of really introduced to being a breakdown artist. Now, for those of us that may not be familiar, can you explain a little bit about exactly what that is and what the breakdown artist does on a film or a series like the strain?
Absolutely. So I think in the States they're called ager dyers or textile artists, which
Okay.
sounds much cooler than breakdown artists, but really um, it's the art of visually telling the story through costumes. So, if the guy got dirty, if the guy has been in a hole for 30 years, if it's, post-apocalyptic, if someone has been rained on, it's the feeling of being lived in.
Okay.
Uh, it gives backstory to the clothing and makes it believable. Like for me, if I'm watching a show and I'm noticing, I mean, not most people would notice this, but I'm noticing like a brand or sheet that covers the closely. The guy's supposed to be homeless, but there's just a bit of dirt on it. You're like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
It's the kind of thing you only notice it, but it's not there.
Hmm.
Like if it's done right, you just believe that what you're watching is true.
I got you. And that would again, I mean, lead go back right to the costuming and then that's what you would do more of later on with some special effects work on other films. Um, Now, we might be going out of order on the films here, but you've worked on a lot that our audience is, of course, very familiar with. So I'd love to get just a couple stories from some of these that and what your area of work was on them. So maybe we'll start with it. Everybody is familiar with the latest iteration of the Stephen King classic. And so can you tell us a little bit about your experiences working on that film?
So that was when I wasn't doing breakdown yet.
Okay.
I was working on set, dressing background and also dressing cast. I was actually supposed to be the assistant to Mr. Skarsgård, but ended up going home early that day. And my friend who I was working, in tandem with, she got the job. But figured out. But no, it was really fun. It was especially fun because, dressing the background in 80s costumes, which of course are the clothing I grew up wearing. And I'm like, "Oh, I had this one. Oh, I had this too." So that's cool in the first
Yeah.
place. You know. But the the best for me, other than, being one of the first people to see the clown, um, before anyone else, probably at least a year before anyone else knew what he looked like.
Yeah.
Which was was there on the day that Georgie floats his little boat down the street, and I was in charge of Georgie, the actor who played Georgie. Oh my god, he was adorable. And I had to two takes and be like, "Yeah, I need a place." Mhm. Uh, I got us the rain towers. He had this little boat that was covered with wax so that it would float, and we did that over and over and over again. And it was really special to be part of such an iconic scene. Of course, I felt like I had really developed a rapport with this kid, and at the rate party, he was kind of like, "How are you?" And it broke my heart, but that's okay. So that was probably the first like big movie that I got to work on, and that was really cool.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, talk about a big one, to be your first big one. I mean, because especially the lead up to that, I remember, just the hype and the excitement of a new version of Pennywise, and like you
Yeah,
said, nobody really knew what he was going to look like in this new version,
yeah,
until they officially revealed it, and to be there, and then yeah, the Georgie scene. I mean, that's just like such an iconic moment, like you said, in the film and in the story, and to be there, and that you got to work so close with that actor. That Yeah, that's an awesome memory from that set for sure.
I also actually got to, because there's like multiples for each costume and they buy them in all different sizes. I got to take home one of the raincoats, one of the Georgie raincoats, and I gave it to my friends in Scotland. So which was really cool.
That is awesome. Oh man. And then that's something else I would have asked, like cool souvenirs from the set, that you are be able to. That's a good one though. That's a pretty good one. And then another project you worked on, I think you did a couple episodes of The Boys, and of course the spinoff. Um, but what can you tell us about that? Working on that show, and what some of your projects involved in that was, or scenes, I guess, that we might
Yeah,
remember,
yeah.
that you can tell us about that you were a part of.
So season one of The Boys, I did season one and season two. The first season,
Okay.
I assisted the key breakdown artist, and the second season, I keyed the breakdown department,
Oh,
which was
cool.
really cool. I think I was the only person left over from season one. So I was even answering all the questions like, "Oh, this is fun. This is season one." The one costume that I was really proud of was Kimiko's
Oh yeah.
pajamas.
Hmm.
Um, and those went through. They had, I think, three or four different levels, which was like, and each level had 4 or 5 costumes. Um, because they'd have to be washed, and this one would get ripped up, and this one would get dirt on it, etc., etc. Um, so doing multiples, not just of the body grease and dirt and that kind of thing, but blood spattered buttons was like that was when I think I really got into it. Like I knew I liked doing blood before, but most people are like, "Oh, multiples, that sucks," or like, "Blood multiples? No, thank you." And I'm just like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
this is fun." There's such like a fluidity and life to the way that things sort of spray off in different directions. Um, so that was my favorite project of the first season. That and shoes. So she's running around in her feet. Um, and the designer gave me these shoes. They're like black Vibrams, the 5 finger toe shoes,
Yeah.
that runners wear. And she said, can you paint these skin color?" And of course, me being me and having to do everything to the 100th degree, I was like, "Well, that's no fun. I'm gonna have my feet." So I did toenails on them, and just everyone love hated them. It's really it's like a bag of feet. So that's become one of my staple things that I do, for all the different shows. But yeah, the second season of The Boys, I got to do a lot of really cool stuff. The whale scene, of course, being the biggest of those. Um, when they drag their boat into the whale, but all covered in whale guts, like pieces, cunt, goo, everything. And I got to make all of these. Um, and just covered all of the costumes with them. And that one also had many different levels. And of course, in typical film fashion, they filmed the last scene first. So we had to imagine how much wellbits and blood they got on them and what it might look like when it's dry. And then go back and hope that whatever happened in the actual scene matches up with what I imagined it to look like. Um, it was that project, this weekend, that project that I got the nickname Bloodstain because one of my colleagues walked in and I had my arms like this, around that smoking and I was like, what if that's honesty? I, I just kind of spiraled from there into a thing, trying to become my name. Um, yeah, I got to do a lot of cool things on that season as well, like uh, Black Along has two different episodes where he basically gets blown up, like he gets a giant hole blown in his chest. And then there's another one where he um gets like a bunch of shrapnel, like a shrapnel bomb goes off, and he's basically like a pincushion of all these little metal bits. And I also did Stormfront when she gets lasered at the end by Homelander's kid.
Oh yeah.
So those those are the things that I love doing most because they're crossovers with the prosthetic makeup department.
Mhm.
So we get to marry our looks together. And that's always fun because I love like picking up cool little pointers from them that I wouldn't have known about before, like, you know, different materials or like brands or that kind of stuff to use that I just wouldn't have heard of. And that's like my little way of being in the prosthetic makeup department without being.
Very cool. And I love that you're a fan of all of this too. That you're clearly a fan and like talking about it. You know the significance of it, and you're a fan of the effects as much as the horror. It sounds like too. You can appreciate the behind the scenes, like you said, the artistry of it all. Which
Yeah.
again, if you're not into this stuff, a lot of people overlook that so easily. But I think more horror films should be like nominated for the big awards, the big makeup awards, because there's so
Absolutely.
much good stuff out there that doesn't get the recognition it should just because it's genre sometimes.
There are absolutely shows that movies that I've been watching and sort of like, I think I exhausted kind of
Yeah.
seen it before, but like, sort of past me watching it and then they'll be like such a creative kill or like such like incredible special effects makeup, head rip open something, and I'll just put down whatever I was half focusing on and be like, okay, I need to watch this movie.
Yeah.
But I've been even before I got into movies and stuff like that, into working movies, I've always been a blood snob. Like watching the film and being like, hey, how come the blood that came out of here was like red, but then the blood that came out of his mouth was like tomato sauce and what why got tomato sauce? So that's always like the first thing I do when I get on a show is like, let's do the quick sheet and be like, all right, here's the special effect. People on this, I'm good. What blood are you using? I have anything.
And another iconic franchise that you did some work on is Chucky, the TV series. And I love that show. I think it's a shame they canceled it, but he'll be back. He always comes back. But I thought everything they did on that show was awesome. I was a big fan of that. What can you tell us about working on that
So I only did one episode of Chucky. It
one? Okay.
was episode 10 of season 1, I believe.
Okay.
Um, spoiler, and because the place that we were renting didn't allow any like it was a cultural center, I think. And they were like, we can't have blood on the seats. There's nothing, there can't be anything you have to clean up. And my thing is doing blood that's permanent, that looks good. So they called me in to just cover all of the background, all of the stunt actors in this specialty blood that I do. And that was supposed to be the only thing that I did. And then the background supervisor got sick. So I took over and I ended up getting to also dress the background and sort of supervise them on set. So I got to hang out with my bloody dead. So just really fun. It's rare that you get to do that, like actually do that, and then you don't see it till it's on TV or sometimes not on TV, and you're like, what happened to that? I really like I'm not coming to the floor, I guess. But yeah, that was fun. And actually, a couple of friends of mine that work at the special effects company, Steve Newburn, who is the owner of Applied Arts Effects, who did worked on The Strain, did Hereditary, like just basically everything. And my friend Kayla, who works there as well, she did the makeup on Chucky, and Steve was one of the puppeteers for the doll. So that
cool.
was cool. And then I came home and I put this, I don't know if you can see it over there in the jar, Chucky pumpkin.
Awesome. Of course you did.
And I got to meet Don Mancini, which was really cool. Don Mancini, oh my God, I'm gonna have a brain fart on their names. But like Tiffany Valentine, the actress.
Yeah.
And Andy, the actor. Yeah, so that was cool. I got them all to sign a t-shirt for me, which was fun. Actually, I showed Don Mancini, who was a judge of season 5, I think, of Halloween Wars. A little
That's right.
tie-in there.
That's right, he was.
Yeah, when I got married on Halloween first, and I didn't want to throw my bouquet because it was beautiful, so I threw a Chucky doll. I didn't know I was going to do that, so I just kind of turned around and threw this thing, and I have the best picture of one of my friends doing this in the university. And I showed him that picture, and he said, "Can you text that to me?" And I was like, "Sure. Just give me your number, Don Mancini." Oh my God, this is happening. Okay, cool. So
wow,
that
is awesome. Yeah, I love that. And yeah, a little Halloween Wars tie in there. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, a personal tie in too that you didn't even know it was going to be down the road. But that's cool. And getting married on Halloween again, you gotta love that. What better day to have a hallowed wedding? Hallow wedding? Yeah, the Hallow wedding. I love it. Talking about your effects work in film, another one that I don't know, it kind of went a little bit under the radar, but I really enjoyed it, and I kind of seeing it on your IMDb. I need to give it a rewatch because I remember I really liked it the first time I saw it. Is The Prodigy, and that's a Halloween movie too. It qualifies as a Halloween movie totally if people don't know. Can you talk a little bit
about the same kid that played Georgie?
That's right. Yep. And he's great. Yeah, he's really great in that. Again, he was great, like you said, in it. But yeah, he's really great in that one too. I forgot. You're right. That is the same kid. Yeah. What can you tell us about working on that one? That's and again, highly recommended to our audience if you haven't seen that one.
That one, I think I was working on that one while the rest of the people in the studio were working on Hereditary, which was really cool. I don't think I did anything for Hereditary. It's funny, when I work for the special effects company, sometimes I don't know what the thing I'm working on is for. until I later something pops up on my IMDb. I'm done that. But that's what these dead rabbits were for. Okay. So, okay, with this one. The part where the mom opens the cover of the dead dog falls out. I worked on the dog. So basically they will sculpt and run a polyfoam body and give it to me, and then I do like the furry pajamas that go on top. So I end up making the pattern for the dog and skinning it and putting fur on it and like shaving the fur if that needs to happen. Um, and yeah, that was one that I didn't know that it was fur until afterwards. And Steve with Applied Arts Effects, he still has that dog. Actually, I re-furred that dog recently because there was so much blood that the dog was dyed pink. So yeah, I redid for I think it was uh Beau is Afraid or I don't know. It was another obviously another horror movie.
And yet another horror movie and a franchise that again I think everybody's familiar with. You worked on is it the most recent Resident Evil film? I think it is the most recent
Yeah,
Resident Evil film. Yeah,
yeah. So the thing I've done for that, you
it was
won't
Raccoon City,
see.
right?
Yeah, Resident Evil
Welcome to
City.
Raccoon City. That's yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to Raccoon City. Yep.
You won't actually see it because this was a giant 4 foot green screen monster hunt.
Okay.
But because it was green screen, you don't see it. It's CGI on top, but at the very end, when there's like that huge mutation and it grabs the girl and sort of shakes her,
Yeah.
they used the green screen hand for that. But that was really cool. I had like it took up my entire dining room table. Sometimes I work on this stuff at home. It took up my entire dining room table. You know, my cats were sitting all over it. Like it had flaws and everything. It was just so cool. It felt very, terrifying. So, like,
Yeah, I love that seeing the yeah in your dining room table. I can imagine that. Yeah, but it would probably fit right in. I'm guessing, with the aesthetic and everything. It seems like it would. Yeah, that sounds like normal to me. Um, so I mean, again, you've worked on so many film projects. If you got to pick one, what is your favorite memory from one of these film sets?
I don't. So I don't get to be on set a lot for breakdown because usually, if you're on a show, especially if you're keying a show, you're too busy to leave.
Yeah,
Just
yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
um, I love being on any set where I get to do blood, of course. I did there was an Eli Roth Adam so I'm forgetting his name, but they were sort of doing these like VR movies, these short VR movies. I don't know how
Okay.
well they were received, but it was called Be Mine, and I was
Okay.
literally just there to put blood on people. And that made me so happy. I actually got to do that in The Last of Us as well. They sent me to set just to put blood on people, and I was like, we do that. Yeah, just give me enough time. I'm very happy to do this. But my favorite memory of being on set was when I was on the strain. I was assistant set supervisor with the cast, and there were three ancients, which were head to toe prosthetic makeup, vampire creatures, so creepy and cool looking. And Doug Jones, who is my favorite actor. Um, who most people would know about, but probably your friends would know about.
Oh yeah.
I was there, and he was the main infant. And after every take, we were filming in this abandoned warehouse that is like it's infamous in Toronto. It's called the Phone. It's like an abandoned power plant. It rains indoors, even when it's not raining outdoors. It's a very it's coyotes and raccoons and all kinds of weirdness. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Um, And so these poor guys were up on these stands. It was the middle of the night, they're lying there like this. And then they'd come down off these stands and step in puddles with their foam latex feet, which would soak up all the water. So my job was to help Doug Jones off of his pedestal, wrap him in a blanket, and then we'd go into the like past tent where I would dry his feet. And I felt like Mary Magdalene. I'm so happy. I was like, professional, sweet. And so he's just the loveliest human being. And yeah, one of my favorite stories from interacting with an actor on set was him, in a full costume as this monstrosity. Um, we provided my throat wasn't because he was complaining that his throat was sore. And he said, he's leaning down at me from like up here, and he's like, "Oh, isn't that just so lovely? Thank you so much. Do you mind because," and he had these fingers that we got from this life. And then he goes, "Oh, that's just the most delightful."
That's awesome.
And I was like, yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, that's a pretty good memory. Like you said, he's an icon, and yeah, we love Doug Jones too. Yeah, that's a good one. You mentioned The Last of Us too. Yeah, we gotta, of course, that's huge. We gotta talk about that for a minute. What can you tell us about working on that one? That was fairly recent though, I guess.
Yeah, I was 20, I think it was. So I was out there in March 2022.
Okay, yeah,
There was a huge, huge team of costumers, breakdown artists, like literally everyone. If you go to the casting
I'm
crew
sure.
page, it just goes on and on and on. But because it was such a huge show, they were bringing in people from everywhere. And I think it was for a couple of the last episodes that they hadn't filmed yet was
Yeah,
just full of flickers and bladders and all of these fantastic creatures that I had never heard of before, and was like, "Oh my God, where have you been all my life?" I know there's this cool things.
hmm
Um, so there was a call put out, like any breakdown artists anywhere in Canada, even outside of Canada, "Are you available to come to Alberta?" And so me and two of my friends flew out there and worked for a month. I worked for a month. They stayed a bit later, longer, and were like second unit set supervisors. But yeah, there I think it was definitely the largest team of breakdown artists I have ever been on. There was at least 20 of us, I think. Um, and it was just bonkers, but it was so cool meeting people that had worked on Game of Thrones, doing all the prosthetics, and again getting to work with the prosthetics department because they would bring us these crazy shirts that just had like all the mushrooms in it, and we would have to take the clothing that was um sort of roughly put on the actor in the fitting and mesh them together beautifully, and make um whatever techniques we were using to look like mushrooms seamlessly move into the rest of it, and then paint it all crazy colors, and it was really fun.
man. Yeah, I imagine that being an HBO production, and like you said, from the studio that did Game of Thrones and stuff like that, these epic productions. I could imagine it being like you said, just so many people and every little detail because I mean, there's so much detail in those shows. It's so deep and they do such a good job, and that's why they win all the Emmys every year and all the awards every
Yeah.
year. But yeah, that had to have been cool just to be there and be involved in something that massive. It sounds like.
Yeah, it was definitely really cool. And finding out afterwards as well that so many of my prosthetics friends had been on it as well, just sort of flying out at different times.
Right.
Um, you know, like that you just miss me. So that's cool too.
Yeah, very cool. Um, Now, and then there's a more recent film, very recent film from this year, and I don't know if you worked on it or just worked with them on some promo stuff, but Carved is a Hulu original, and again, I highly recommend. I love that movie. It's one of my favorite movies this year. I'm not gonna, yeah, it's regular viewers know how much I love Carved. But yeah, what was your involvement with that one? Because again, I that's just been one of my joys of 2024 for sure.
Such a great cast too, and it was filmed in Canada, which is cool. I
Awesome.
recognized I actually I saw the like the short film that it was based on,
Yes.
and I was like, damn it, oh, I've been there to get pumpkins. So whatever it is.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so I was contacted by the people at Hulu saying, like, I think I had sent out my resume to a bunch of different like networks and stuff last year saying I'm a professional pumpkin artist. I would love to do some media promos for you.
Hmm.
And they contacted me and they said, we've got this cool thing coming up. It's about a killer pumpkin. And I was like,
Yeah, you're like me. Like you've already sold me on Killer Pumpkin. Like right there, you could
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
you could stop. But
It
sold. I'm
sounds
there.
great. So, I mean, even if I had like watched it and not liked it, I didn't even feel it was about the color pumpkin. I didn't have to do
Yeah.
it.
Right.
But, it was cool because they sent me a screener, like I signed an NDA, I got
Hmm.
to watch it, I enjoyed it. I, took some sneaky screen clips,
Hmm.
and what they were proposing was just, like the logo folded into a pumpkin. And maybe like a time lapse of it or something. I was like, can I pitch you something? There is a kind of pumpkin that looks just like that. Can I turn that into your monster and then have that clothing the logo? And they were like, oh my God, yes. So I'm going to show you this pumpkin. I have one right here because, of course, I do.
Awesome.
So heavy. So it's called a Vanderbilt thing. And you can, it's just a big Vanderbilt thing. There's nothing that's exactly like there you go, like the monster. They're a mix of squash and uh chicken squash, I
And
think. Neither of these are bubbly, but they come out looking like that. And it took a chisel to get through the damn thing. Not even get like chisel and a handle. At least to get through it, it's beautiful, thick flesh. I'm geeking out about pumpkins now, but I've had so much in my house because I wasn't sure if it was going to be the right one. So I'm looking forward to breaking into this. Yeah, it was really, I think it was the most staged um of any like pumpkin ad that
hmm
I've done before. I did one a couple years ago for the witches. Um, and I like pumped that pumpkin. I pulled some little mice out of potatoes and like did a backdrop and stuff. But this was this was just so fun. Like
hmm
setting up the lighting and setting up the arms and making sure that it's holding a knife, and it was surprisingly difficult to do. But it was so great when it came out because it looked just like the monster, and I think it
yeah.
maybe looked a bit too much like the monster. Um, and then I found out that the aesthetic makeup team that designed and created the pumpkin are people that I know and I've worked with.
Of course.
So I was like, "Great, that's fantastic. What I do?" But
Awesome.
that was a really cool, like, kind of tie-in all the way around.
Oh, totally. And can you say it again? What is that kind of pumpkin called again? The kind that featured in
It's
the
called
as the
a
creature?
red warty thing, or a warty red thing. I think it's a red warty thing,
Okay.
which, it's just like, yes, that is the official.
That is that hey,
It's
yeah.
a really red thing. things. What do you think?
It works. Yeah.
Scientific
Oh,
denomination is worthy written.
that's awesome. Well, and I love that you do have an affiliation with the film, just even in that way, because it feels like you should, given everything else you've worked on, and that, yeah, that you needed to be a part of that release this year, because like I said, I watch all the Halloween movies that come out, and I love them all. It's my favorite subgenre of subgenre of subgenres. There's horror, there's holiday horror, and then there's Halloween horror, but
Yeah.
Carved, yeah, that one's gonna get a lot of rewatches for me over the years. I can promise you that. That one's so fun. If you haven't seen it yet,
That's
people,
yeah.
it's
You're
on
not
Hulu.
taking me. You guys. That's another one that was, it's kind of things. Like it starts out kind of cute, and then you're like, oh, what just happened? Okay. Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
I'm paying attention now. What you got?
yeah,
That's what they're gonna do.
yeah, yeah. Definitely. It's just one of those, like you said, when I just heard the plot already, I'm like, okay, well, I'm sold. I'm there. I can't wait to see this. It sounds amazing. The trailer looks good. And then I watch the film, and yeah, it starts off good and just gets better and better as it goes. It's just so much fun. Moving on from that, let's talk now about what brought us here in the first place, which is Halloween Wars, and that has become just a talk about annual traditions for Halloween people. That has become totally an annual tradition for all of us Halloween people, just over more than a decade now. They've been doing these shows, and it's gone through different iterations over the years, and they've changed some things and brought some things back. But it's and it's kind of one of the original of those type shows. Now there's a lot of different holiday themed competition shows. But Halloween Wars was there right in the beginning of it, and now you were on it this season 2024, which was not just in the old season; it was the All Star season.
Yeah.
So, can you walk us through a little bit about just your own experience first as a viewer of Halloween Wars prior to getting on the show, and then how it all worked out that you got on the show and were your teammates, meeting your teammates and being a part of this team.
Absolutely, yeah. So, I was actually, to be honest, I'm surprised how few people that were on the show had actually watched it. Because I
Really?
have been like rabid fan since the beginning. Holy shit, there's a film of perfect and it's on Halloween and their kids and they or just it checked all the boxes
Yeah.
for me. So when it first came out, and of course I knew who Ray Villafane was because he's like the godfather of pumpkins. I saw he was on the team. I was like, he's winning. We all know what's happening. And then I was like, oh, what's that? It's not about how good one person is. It's about your team altogether. And it's just like, season after season, more and more, uh, you know, known, well-known pumpkin people, and also, sort of brand new people that you've never heard of pop up and really surprise you. And it it's definitely annual tradition. I rewatch this every year. They make me so hungry, but I love watching this. Like, the tasting element is one of the things that I love so much about it. And I don't know, Finland just has this way of saying French that like makes you want to eat it.
Yeah.
Awesome,
Yeah.
and
That's true.
watching the show, it tastes what it tastes like. Something to be on the show. Not being allergic to sure. So good, I can't try it.
I bet.
But, yeah, obviously, huge fan. Um, and a huge fan of the horror aspect, the horror
Yeah.
judges and the guest judges, which they don't have anymore, sadly,
Yeah.
um, which is unfortunate. But anyway, um, but yeah, I think back when Outrageous Pumpkins had its pilot episode that only kind of had 3 heats, and it was relatively simple. I went, ooh, I could probably do that. So I started being like, okay, and practicing, trying to get faster and that kind of thing. And then the second, the first actual season came out, and it was insane. I was like, okay, I can't do that. That's great. I don't know. Um, but Halloween was, you know, stayed true form. And so I saw a casting for it and was like, okay, I'll apply. And I applied probably 5 years in a row, I think.
Mhm.
And just before COVID, I heard back. And then COVID hit. And it was like, after that, at least for 2 years after COVID, they didn't really want non-US people coming in just with the flights and everything. And
Mhm.
then this year, I wasn't even going to apply because I was like, they don't want Canadians. Whatever. And I didn't know. And now I was kind of like, what am I going to do now? Um, and was just so happy that, I made it all the way through to the first episode, even because uh, a couple of seasons ago, you'd have a conversation with someone and they'd be like, yeah, everything sounds great. You're so happy to have you. And then they call you back and they're like, oh, you're in Canada. I'm like, oh, maybe not this year. So yeah,
Yeah.
really excited to get to go. And maybe that's been off for a year because I've been in a car accident and I wasn't really able to stand for more than a few minutes. So I was like, you don't even know if I can do the show, but I need to at least get on the Food Network, at least get on Halloween Wars, even if I'm not in the first episode, just so I can say I've been there and I can sort of, swap as a content like, I see my work for 5 seconds. But so I'm going to hold on to the painkillers that happened to me, and we ended up winning. And I never would have imagined, because the time limit, and all of my friends were like, I knew you were going to win. And I'm like, no, but it's not about you. It's what I can do. It's about what I can do as a team. And that's the scariest part is like, I don't know bakers. I don't know sugar artists. I don't know any of these people except the returning All-Stars, which was really cool because I'm like, especially for me, because like I remember Kyle Bria and John Neal. I remember the season. I mean, I remember all the seasons because I watched them forever. Yeah, see, I think I actually scared one of the other contestants because I was like, "What's someone's on her face?" And she's like, "What? You remember? You saw your face in my eyes? You kidding? Your face." So there was a lot of kind of fangirling of people that were like, we're just people. Like, we're the same as you. I'm like, oh no. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, that was really cool having the old stuff come back.
Yeah.
Especially from a fan like me. And then getting to have one of them as your team captain was really, really amazing. And hearing them talk about, what I've learned since last time, because
Yeah.
some of the training captains just won last year. Like they just won season 13.
Mhm.
Um, but Kyle and Bria, it's been 10 years. So it's like there's been a lot that has happened since then. And Mike Clegg as well. I think he was in season 7.
Mhm.
Yeah, so some of these people you haven't seen them for a really long time. It's not like Tatum who's back every 5 months.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, it was definitely a special season, like you said, for all those reasons. And yeah, I that is surprising that a lot of the contestants didn't previously watch the show. But I love that you do, and that it wasn't lost on you what a big deal it was, not just to get on the show. I mean, obviously that's huge, and you recognize that too, having applied numerous times, and we're kind of ready to, all right, I'm just going to let it be. And of course, that's the way it happens, right? As soon as you're ready to say, I don't need it this year, then boom, here it comes, right? That's always the way it is. It seems like in life. But then it's not lost on you that you're there, and it's not just any old season either. It's these all stars leading these teams that are kind of legendary within this world.
Yeah.
So again, I mean, we're if you haven't seen the season, I mean, yeah, I don't know, but there were so many good challenges, and just everybody. It's always so impressive. And like you said, it's always cool because there's the pumpkin artistry, but that's just a piece of it. It is, like you said, it's a full team thing. As opposed to like outrageous pumpkins where it's but what this season would you say was the toughest of all the challenges that your team had to face, in your opinion?
Um, the toughest challenge for me was the first one because I am coming from, well, first of all, none of us have even met, let alone worked together. So
Yeah.
that's the first challenge. And
Hmm.
and Kyle and I was kind of like we like to lead. So I was like, okay, I can see this becoming a problem, but it really was good. And Sarah was, I'm sure, was just a lot younger than us, like almost 20 years younger. Oh my goodness. Very young. And we didn't really know what for uh like skill levels. But
Yeah.
my goodness, did she knock it out of the park by the end of the show. Yeah. Um, but yeah, so I am a face sculpture, pumpkin person. I've done a hand here and there, but I have never made an armature. I have never made, for example, hoops. So what do I know in terms of hoops?
Hmm. Yeah.
About 4 hours into our 7 hour challenge, I started to realize I was really in trouble because things that you see on TV, or it doesn't matter how much you study it or how much you pre-plan, you never know what you're going to get with a pumpkin. So if you had gotten like a nice thick, 3 inch thick punk from a giant, could have stuck it on there, carved it all as one piece, but the pumpkins that we were using were really skinny, and I was having to like, family them onto dowels, and they weren't staying. And oh my God, I was like, I only have half of a horse. And I was like, I'm gonna, I'm gonna send my team home because I'm failing at this. Oh my God. And that's when, the tears start happening. I actually saw any of this on the first episode. This is for sure. Because I'm like, this is amazing. Yes, I have a lot of people planning their teacher. And so yeah, and I start crying, and they come over to me, and then they're like, "Yeah, I could put myself too. I could put myself in front of the medical room." Um, so like I kind of told Kyle what was going on, and I said, "Can you help me? Like, do I tell him about it?" And he said, "No." Anyway, and he comes with a horse pumpkin. And never, to my knowledge, on Halloween Wars history, has the Greek person taken over pumpkin carving. Like, you see the pumpkin person done with modeling chocolate all the time, but I was so amazed. And they didn't show that either. That would be so cool to be like, he told me that his previous pumpkin carver, John Neal, taught him a few things. And I was like, that would be such a full like homage to your past the winning team. But
Hmm.
anyway, you never know what's going to make it on TV.
Right.
But yeah, that was definitely the hardest one for me. Um, and I know that the Love Bites or Love Sucks, the vampire
Hmm.
episode was really hard
Hmm.
for Kyle because not only was it the cake spotlight, but he had to make the cake as well. And like a lot of the bakers, well, a lot of the cake artists, I'll say, aren't necessarily bakers. Like they, which I was like, wait, what? It's like finding out the Beatles didn't write their own songs. I'm like, somebody's done it first. But yeah,
Yeah.
they baked cakes that they sculpt and do the decorating. And so it was really hard for some of the cake artists to have to bake and to do all the sculpting.
Hmm.
So that one I ended up uh, doing a lot of. I actually worked with modeling chocolate and rice cereal treats. And it's as particularly on that one. It is not how it looks on TV. My gosh, I thought, TV so good. I was like, holy mess. But I got it done, and we really thought we were going home that one. So, like, Sarah and I were already crying. You could see it when they're about to announce who's going home. And when
Yeah.
they announced Delectable Demons, my jaw hit the floor. Um, we were so happy to still be there, but it's hard. You become friends with everybody, and you don't want to see other people leave as much as you don't want to leave.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I think that was something too that was different about this season than past seasons, or at least how they've shown past seasons, especially the like pre 2020
Hmm.
ones. Was there was a lot of seemed to be more animosity between teams
Yeah.
themselves and between different teams. Like, I get you, this is my favorite, and we all just loved each other, and we're like it was the kind of thing that if somebody's thing was falling down, somebody else would come and help them, or like, you know, and most of us are still friends now,
Hmm.
which is really cool.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is cool to hear that the community is tight like that, and this was kind of a gathering of new blood and older blood, but all kind of there with a common love and passion for the same thing. It sounds like
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly the way we as viewers kind of want it to be behind the scenes. Um,
Yeah.
so that was your toughest. I mean, yeah, that is certainly understandable. And like you said, it being the first challenge, everybody's finding their groove anyway. So I think that like you said, obviously is going to add to it. How about the other end? What was your favorite challenge or your favorite in result of one of these challenges?
Um, I was really proud of the pumpkin spotlight, which was Murder Comes for Greg. Uh, uh, Pumpkin monster dresses up as a scarecrow for Halloween and ends up trick or treating at a crow guy's house, and the crows come and tear him apart. Um, but that was the first time, like, other than the horse debacle, that happened to be beautiful. And it was an entire person. It was a 3 or 4 foot person built out of pumpkin and then sculpted. And then the head was a pumpkin carved to look like a pumpkin wearing a burlap sack. So that was interesting. And I was really proud of how that turned out. The team that won that episode absolutely deserved to win. Like, oh my God, that monster was amazing. But I think we were a close second, and I was really happy with how that one turned out, and just like our first perspective and our I call it some little um like yam froze that didn't really get mentioned, and I also like put out a bunch of leaf shapes over the pumpkin skin to make the dried leaves on the ground, so that was fun. But my favorite of the season was definitely Frida Frostbite. The the Freddy Krueger themed one, and we won that episode too, which meant so much to I know me and Kyle because we're huge horror fans. Before we came to Halloween Wars, Sarah hadn't even watched Beetlejuice because it was too scary. So definitely and yeah, so she was the dark side. She wouldn't say that she's ready for uh Pinhead, but she did watch Freddy Krueger after the challenge and was like, "Where's her?"
That's funny.
I got one. I didn't really have any huge pumpkin pieces. It was all about Kyle and Sarah's sugar work.
Mhm.
But I was really proud of that one, even though they didn't say it on air because she was Freddie's Canadian cousin. Um,
Nice.
and I kind of came up with that idea, and everyone else just smashed it out of the park. It looked so good. Um, and and I've actually decided to make it my Halloween costume. It was going to be for this year, but um, sculpting clay and casting silicone and all of these things takes a lot longer than you'd think. Or maybe it wouldn't, but a lot longer than I thought. So it's probably going to be a labor of love that takes a few years, but it was really cool getting to recreate for myself anyway. Um, something that was made out of cake in the first place and then put my own more realistic spin on it afterwards. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I'd love to see that. Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, that was a great one. All those were great, but yeah, Frida was great. And celebrating Freddie, like you said, I mean that's
Yeah.
can't go wrong there. This being the 40th anniversary of Freddie and all that, the whole Elm Street phenomenon. um, uh, what was something? What surprised you the most about this whole Halloween Wars experience?
I think um, what surprised me the most was how little of what happens actually makes it on TV.
Yeah,
I
I
did
bet.
know from film, like when you're living it, when you're every single second is like, oh my God, that was so good. And you definitely want to show that. And it's like, oh, we didn't see any of this.
Yeah.
And, you know, you never lose the memories. It would be nice to see certain things again. Like there was a moment on the Frida episode where I think Kyle was asking me how many skulls do we have and how many blood do we have? And I was counting them and I was like, one, two. And we both went, Freddy's coming
Yeah.
for you. We just lost it. We were such like spontaneous moment. When I was like, we didn't get to see that. Or there was actually a few instances where I broke Sarah's sugar work, um, like with 10 minutes to go.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, they're definitely going to show that. And they didn't. And I think that's because Sarah's just so sweet that she won't like shit talk anybody. So she was like, okay, don't worry. I can fix that back. So you're not mad at Bloodstain for breaking your sugar? She's like, it's fine. Yeah, so there are some moments that you would absolutely think 100% that's going to make it on. That don't, and then there are other ones that you're like, why did they include that? The one thing that I'm really glad they included was me face planting into that giant pumpkin.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
Even I remember when it happened, like I didn't. Kyle had said at the beginning because I had, back problems from my accident. He was like, "Don't try to lift anything. Just call me when you need to lift anything heavy." But I don't want to be a bother, so I was like, "Oh, maybe I'll just try to push it." And I just went and looked up, and there was a cameraman right there, and he was like, "That didn't make it in the papers." And so I was just sunrise. Just a fun.
Yeah. Well, at least it's a fun memory, and you weren't hurt. You didn't really hurt you. And and you're right though. Had Sarah been more upset with you in her interview, then they probably would have shown it.
Yeah,
Had she been talking more angry about you, you're right.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
it probably would have made the show that. I'm surprised though, as you're saying that I'm just thinking, they could make a lot of money putting out like a DVD, Blu-ray of with bonus features, like extended cuts and or a best of bloopers from each season. Oh my God! I mean, there's a total audience for that, like right here.
Definitely, I know that like I kind of search for it because I'm like, has anything happened? Did anything come out? But like, there's definitely like compilations of best sugar splashes from like the original seasons. Um, I think that once it changed format, um, the viewership dropped off a little bit.
Mhm.
As a fan, I can understand that. Um, I mean, like things change for whatever reasons, and I'm sure a lot of it has to do with budget or moving the studio from LA to Utah,
Mhm.
and just being able to get certain things. Um, I know that if Robert Englund had showed up on the Freddie episode, I probably would have been useless.
So in that respect, it might have been better for competition wise, but
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Now that would have been a mic drop moment right there to
yeah, yeah.
had they brought him on. Well, maybe in future seasons, you never know. They might get back to going back to that format, like you said. And then I was always curious, if there's anything you could tell us that we don't know. I mean, you've mentioned a little bit about it, just the stuff that we don't see. Obviously, there's so much cut, which makes sense. I mean, because my wife and I watch, and we're always just amazed at how quick the time goes by as we're watching it, because we're like seeing your clock countdown, and you've got
Yeah.
hours, but they condensed it down to 15, 20 minutes. What is hours worth of footage? So, what's something you could tell us that viewers would never know otherwise, unless you've been on this show?
Um, well, I mean, there's the not meeting your team till you're actually there
Yeah.
is one. Um, oh, I just had another one. What was it? Um, I think an interesting thing for the bakers anyway is that it's filmed in Utah now, and because of the change in elevation, the bakers were having a lot of trouble with like their baking times and having things rise
Hmm.
or set,
Yeah.
which was something I would never think of. Actually, Eric lost his voice because of the elevation change. Like you
Wow.
can tell that the time he's kind of got this thing. It's not me sound like. But let's see. Most of the stuff I'd have to kill you if I said.
Sworn to secrecy.
Yeah, I mean, like if you want to do a deep dive on it, I'm sure they can find some behind the
Yeah.
scenes from yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, we definitely don't want to get you in any trouble, because we want to see you back on there next season, for another round, and see more of your work on there. So no, we don't want you to violate any NDAs or anything. But yeah, I mean, I know, just as a viewer, like I said, or like you were mentioning, there's so much footage that they have to have, and just stuff, great moments that both funny and dramatic, that I'm sure they just edit out, for any number of reasons. But yeah, I would love to see like extended cuts, some kind of Blu-ray release with like extra commentaries. Get you guys the winning
Yeah.
teams to like do a commentary track for the episode, or just different things like that. I think fans would really love, and they've got um
Yeah.
the audience for it kind of built in right now. It seems like. Um,
This for this season, they did actually, like in seasons past, they would have one representative of each team, and they would do all the interviews.
yeah.
This year they changed it up and actually had each member of the team interviewing. But they didn't end up using all of it. I think there was one interview with Sugar Sarah from my team, and there was one interview with Eric from Delectable Demons. But none of my interview stuff made it on. I guess it was just, what was more relevant at the time. One
Mhm.
interesting thing, which I wouldn't have known, and was kind of surprised about, is hair and makeup is all on you. There's no like touch ups, there's
Hmm.
no whatever. So I had to learn how to do hair like a grown ass woman. Especially when I was starting my own that. It's like, what do you mean I have to put together and whatever? It's like something I can do, but everything else, so much. So yeah, learning how to do quick, easy, and also not looking like crap. Hair and makeup every day was tough for me. I mean, being a recovered beast, like a dream. Makeup, yeah, hair was a weird one. Um, but I did actually get to make, speaking of costumes, um, like the accessories for my team.
Yeah.
So these eyeballs, I had to noodle for the Food Network because they actually have popular nerves on them, and they're like, "Oh no, that's not too much." And the embracers that Kyle and myself were, I made those, which was fun, and am planning on selling them whenever I figure out how to make a website.
Nice.
Figure out them.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, well, keep us posted when that's up and available for sure. And speaking of your look on the show, I want to talk about your gear because I noticed you every time I saw you were wearing what I can only describe as like these kind of gauntlets. I guess I don't know what you would call it, but I mean, and then I think you had like some of your tools, like strapped to you, kind of. Tell
Yeah.
us about your gear that you were wearing for the show.
So the like users that I was wearing and Kylie was wearing,
Yeah.
I made these. They were just made out of veg tan and leather, and I tooled them myself and
Oh,
like
cool.
varnished them and everything, and so that was fun. And then when Shinmin came on set and saw me, she was like, "This is ready for you."
Yeah, yeah. Y'all
I
meant
mean,
business.
I
Yeah, you could
mean,
tell.
that's the Bloodstain. And the other thing I had is my holsters, which I was wearing earlier, but
Yes.
I have had those for probably 10 years. It's another thing that I make that I just sort of keep all my stuff in because, pockets are getting smaller and phones getting bigger. But yeah, that's like it just good to keep. I keep my wallet in there. I keep everything in there. And let me tell you, by the end of every time, there was so much buttercream in the pocket.
Yeah.
But some of my gear still smells like sugar. I'm just, I can't get that stuff. To be fair, it smells better than pumpkin guts. But, you know, pick your battles.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I loved it. Yeah, and like you said, your holsters with your various tools that you need and all. I was like, oh, that's cool. That makes sense though, because I mean, your every second counts, especially on that
Yeah.
show. I mean, every in life every second counts, but on that show, I mean, it's such a time crunch all the time. It seems like. So I thought that was so cool how you had all that, and to hear that you made it yourself. That's something else you could sell on the website. There you go. You start marketing those. That's
I've been meaning to make my bus holsters for years, and it just, you get on the show and your life disappears. 7 minutes. And then you have to say, like, I'm too tired to make anything sense. Unfortunately, you spend the next show, and it's like, gee, it sure would be nice to have some time off. So I can make, XYZ.
So you film and you get to the final episode, and it's the final challenge, and of course you guys take it home. You take home the championship. Walk us through that final challenge, and then the judge's decision at the end. Did you feel confident that you guys had it, or what were you thinking during that finale?
Um, well, I think Kyle was pretty confident because right when he met us, he was like, "We're gonna win this," and I was like, "That's nice." And he was like, "No, we're gonna win this."
Yeah.
And of course, so he was like, "Because he got French as long as president." But we were, I mean, we were held really strong in our concept. Um, we eh, were quite happy with the execution. For me, 7 hours is like no time. I mean, when I'm at home, I will spend 16 hours minimum, uh, on a sculpt, and I'll put it in the fridge overnight, and I'll come back to it and just sort of like, zhuzh it. And so I can't say that I was necessarily proud. I mean, proud, yes. Happy with like feeling that it represented what I can do as an artist, a pumpkin artist. No. There's not a piece on the show that I'm like, that was awesome. I did such a great job. I want to look at that and think that's what I can do. But so those ball clips, I would have loved to have more time on the faces and to have had honestly more experience with amateurs and bodies and stuff like that. Um, but I thought our piece looked amazing. And they finally let me do some blood, which is really great. They didn't want any blood, and I was like, sweet. The producer's like, come on, let him do some blood. So, so it's cool. And oh my God, that sugar chandelier. Shut up. Like, this girl came from making cookies and like little desserts and stuff to making a chandelier out of sugar. I've never seen something like that on the show. Um, and uh, and those creepy teeth on the
Yeah.
elevator doors.
Oh
Like I
yeah.
think Bonnie even commented on it. She was like, "I was not expecting that." And I said, "Like, yeah, no, I don't say, why do you say that?" Effect on her. But it's funny with pretty much all of the episodes, like, and I feel like this is something that like a lot of or most of this experience, like you start something and you're like, oh, I don't know, this is far from where I kind of want to go, I'm going bad, I'm gonna fail, and then you get to a certain point and you're like, this is looking really good. Oh my God, this is awesome. This is this. And at the end, it always comes together in like the last 10 minutes. And it didn't matter how prepared you were, what you had done, blah, blah, blah. It was always just, and then you stand up and you're so glad, and you're like, holy fuck, you guys, we did it. We did it. I'm so happy with this. And then you come around and you look at what everyone started and you're like, everyone else is so good too, especially being up against some squad. Like, I think Jamie even says at the beginning of the episode, she's like, clean, clean, clean. Everything they did is clean and crisp and has beautiful lines and beautiful colors and even the lighting and the other like, yeah. And especially because I was
Yeah.
at least I feel I did. But everyone else is so good too. Um, and honestly, when we were standing there, the two teams, like I don't remember if I took Jonathan's hand or that, but in that moment, I was feeling like they probably won, but no matter who won, I would just be so damn happy. Like I would just be overjoyed because I love those guys and I love my team and we all worked so hard. You know, they're so talented and like really having like a freaks. It felt like a finale. And I think I was expecting them to win. So when they announced my name, and also throughout the season, Shriek Squad and Scream of the Crowd, when Jonathan starts singing it, I'm like, wait, was that us? Was that, oh, which was a nightmare film. And they were like, no, how about Scream of the Crowd? Okay, fine. And, you know, the seasons of clips and shows and like mashes and whatever it is. Yeah, so I think it didn't quite register that we had won. And I think when you see us there, I kind of go,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, it was awesome. Like we were so happy. We kind of couldn't believe it. And I even said in my exit interview, you know, they asked how does it feel to be Halloween? I was like, I believe I'm here. Like I'm still just so happy that I'm even here. It doesn't quite seem real. It just feels like, you know, you're working on another set and like that's cool. And I did some stuff and we did some projects and now on to the next thing. And it until the episode actually aired, I don't think it felt real.
Yeah.
Um, that's another thing about uh the show that isn't necessarily, you know, a secret, but they film it a full year in advance. So you're not allowed to tell anybody if you
Yeah.
won or if you didn't for a full year. Um,
Yeah.
so my parents had no idea.
So you just had to be like, just keep watching.
Yeah,
Trust me, but can't tell you anything, but you're gonna want to keep watching.
stop making me some stuff like they did me soon.
Yeah.
But what do you do? I mean, maybe my therapist knew because she can't tell anybody.
Yeah.
So anyway, so it's fine. Mm, yeah, it was so great, and like this year we got to do um a photo shoot. I got to do a photo shoot with Sugar Sarah from my team. Kyle unfortunately wasn't available, but we did like a Morticia and Wednesday, and I carved an Uncle Fester pumpkin, and she made a sugar light bulb for the mouth, and then she made a sugar rose and sugar scissors, and I made a pumpkin thing, and it was just so much fun. And we got to do that photo shoot along with Jonathan and Jamie from Shriek Squad and Gina and Teresa from Killer Instincts, which was really cool. Well, and the photographer was Ellen from Two Girls and a Picture. So we still get together all the time, even though we all live in different parts of various countries. Um, and it does feel like I've just gained this cool, wacky family that
Yeah.
obsessed with the same weird, fantastic Halloween things as I am. Um, yeah, and we get to do art together that isn't necessarily, you know, pumpkins or baking or
Hmm.
that kind of thing, but you know, we all have something else that we do as well. Um, and it's just cool to get to keep doing little projects together.
Yeah, and I love hearing that too. That you guys are, still so tight and maybe tighter than ever now. Now that the pressure of filming and competition is over and the show is aired, and now you can just relax and just be friends and with common
Yeah.
interests and everything. until a later season when they have you all back for All Stars 2 or
Of
whatever,
course, yeah.
which is inevitable, I'm sure. But
Yeah, yeah,
and I did see that
yeah,
photo
animated.
that you're talking about, the Wednesday and Morticia on your Instagram back around Halloween. I love it. Yeah, I remember that. But I didn't even realize how what a team effort all of it was with all of you guys, and yeah, that makes it even more special. Very cool to hear that everybody is still so tight and no hard feelings too. I mean
Yeah,
that
yeah,
everybody, it's and like you said, it could have gone whichever way, and you would have been fine because you were there, and that
yeah,
was the win, really, just getting on it.
exactly.
So the rest is just the bonus. It sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the thing, like, that I said that I just wanted to be able to say that I was on the show. And to
Yeah.
me, in fact, like, I remember a lot of the early seasons, there'd be a lot of, this is so bad I can taste it, like, who's made the money, who the money was. And I'm like, there's money? Yes. It's money was nice, but that's all it was. And it's just so cool. That's all I wanted. So, yeah.
It is so cool, and yeah, definitely, something, just a landmark piece of the show, that's been around, like we've said, for all these years now, and this was a very cool chapter, very unique chapter in it being the All Stars and everything. Um,
Yeah.
I guess before we go, I should use this opportunity to ask you if you have any tips for people, want to step up their game a little bit next Halloween. And maybe not Halloween All Star level, but want to step up their game a little bit from the traditional. I'm usually just a simple punch through, triangles, but if somebody like me wants to start stepping it up just a little bit, what's a good tip or two you could give our audience?
Well, first tip that I would give you is if you are going to do the pumpkin, like with the triangle eyes and everything, never put off the top.
Okay.
Put a hole in the back or in the bottom because the top is basically that's like the umbilical cord to the rest of the plant. So the longer the stem is on there, the
Okay.
longer it thinks it's alive. And like the second that that's why I like going to the field and like picking a pumpkin with as long a stem as possible. Also they just have such personality. Um,
Sure. Yeah.
but yeah, like when you get them at the store, they put it really short, and so that pumpkin is going to have a life of like 5 seconds. Don't bother with some people say soak it in bleach or like put Vaseline on it, blah blah blah. Just keep it cold, keep it moist. Like once you've if you're doing the kind where you etch into it, like you just scrape it off,
Mm-hmm.
just put like a paper towel over it with a bit of water and put it in the fridge. Um, that'll keep it for a lot longer than any kind of like spray or that kind of thing.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, never never carry it by the stem. It's not a handle.
Yeah, that's right. You hear that, people? I see too many people do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't, yeah.
People like Windows. What's wrong with her? Um, if you want to try, 3D sculpting, ditch the knife, get yourself a carrot peeler and
Okay.
some sculptural leap tools. Um, I had some I could show you, but they're over there. They're basically they're for free,
Okay.
and just start scraping away at it. It's much easier if you have like a picture that you're going from. Even better if you have something 3D, like a sculpture, if you have a
Mm-hmm.
skull, or if you even have a picture of something from 3 different sides. I know that a lot of pumpkin artists, when they start out, like the human face is one of the hardest things to do. For me, it's the only experience. But um, I wouldn't say, like, some people will copy Ray Villafen's book, and you'll see a lot of copies of his stuff out there.
Hmm.
I wouldn't necessarily say copy another pumpkin artist, but use references.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to do, sort of a half 3D thing, like a relief, look at a medal or look at, a penny or something like that, maybe
Hmm.
something bigger than a penny. Um, but refer to something. You can use a mirror. A lot of people who do faces like doing that, and they just sort of like it's got we can recognize who did a pumpkin by looking at the face. I'm like, oh yeah, that's Jim. Oh, that's Jim. Oh, that's their face now. But yeah, go with something that interests you,
Yeah.
something you feel you could stay at for a few hours. Put on a good serial killer documentary in the background,
Yeah.
or a podcast, or
Hmm.
this podcast,
Yeah.
and just something that you can, listen to and hone in on something. And the biggest thing I can say is there are no mistakes. There's just learning. That's the best part about pumpkins is if you mess one up, there's always the other side. And if you mess that up, there's always another pumpkin. It's something I have to learn myself. Because, pumpkin is precious to me, right? At the end of the season, I'm like, but there's so many left in the field, I have to take them all home.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, it'll turn into fertilizer, it'll come back next year. And, there's always butternut squash.
That's right. It's a good point. Well, I think that's all great advice. There you go, audience. I mean, that's some good advice there. I'm gonna put all that to use. I'm excited. We're recording this in December, but I'm excited to get into pumpkin season now. To start putting some of that into practice. But
Grab yourself a butternut. I'm telling you,
I think
one of the things that I think elevated my pumpkin game is practicing in the off season.
yes, I bet. Yeah, yeah, because I
Plus, then you
mean,
have, then you have soup for months.
yeah,
I'm
and
saying
but you
butternut
got to keep
things
those
like
skills up. You don't want to get rusty during the off season. It's just like a athlete, any athlete. They're not going to take too much time off during the off season. They're gonna keep in shape. So yeah, I think yeah, off season is no excuse. You're right. That's no excuse. Even if no pumpkins, that's no excuse. You're
have
exactly right.
anything.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, well, you really can. I mean,
And,
they started with turnips in Ireland originally, so I mean, it's yeah, it doesn't have to be pumpkins necessarily. You're totally right about that. Again, keeping Halloween alive every day, which is what we're
exactly.
all about here. Um, well, this has been great. Just talking pumpkins and horror with you and Halloween. I mean, this has been so awesome. I've learned so much. And yeah, I mean, again, I just can't thank you enough for taking the time and hanging out with us and sharing all of these fun stories and just insight on so many cool things you've been a part of. Is there anything upcoming that you could tell us about or want to plug? Be it in film or otherwise, that we can look forward to? Or is it all under wraps for now?
I think it's all under wraps for now. Um, yeah, I don't know that there's anything that I've worked on that has been announced yet.
Okay,
But there's something sci-fi that should be coming out soonish,
okay.
maybe. To keep your eye on. I'll let you know when that drops.
Oh, definitely.
And yeah, in the meantime, I have all of these red wordy things that I have to. So I will be set until if they are not, I will be set until the spring.
Yes, nice. Love it. Well, that yeah, that sounds like that'll keep you busy for a
Right.
little while. But I love it. I love it. And I love the red warty things. That's another thing. My wife and I, in recent years, we used to always try to find the most perfect pumpkin. But now we're gravitating more and more. I think the older we get, we like the outcasts. The misfits, the weird shaped ones, the warty ones, the oblong. Yeah, more and more we're looking for the traditionally more unloved ones. We want to bring them home and give them the love these days.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Just because, something like that,
That's right. Absolutely. Well, again, Bloodstain, this has been awesome. It has been great just meeting you and talking to you and learning all of this cool new info. And again, it will not be our last conversation. I have no doubt. We'll
I'm
talk
not.
again, and I'll look forward to it. I'm already looking forward to it. But we'll wait until some of these other future projects are announced, and then we'll have you back on and talk about all that stuff. And maybe next season, if they don't have you back on, maybe we'll have you come on and give your take on next season. Kind of as a commentary of former champion, you can come on and give us your take on what's going on next season, possibly.
I
Um,
love that.
I think that would be a lot of fun and something cool to do.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's been a ton of fun, geeking out about house here and, just seeing how pretty much all of the aspects of my life come back to Halloween. Uh, you know, it is 365 and, I wouldn't want it any other way.
That's beautiful, and that's us all the way. I couldn't say it any better than that. And before we go, instead of just saying goodbye, it's always Halloween, no matter what the calendar says. So I always like to end, no matter what time of year, just by wishing you a very, very happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween to you too.